Hi everyone. Actually, with my topic, I should just sit silently on the stage for 18 minutes because how can you explain silence, the power of silence when you're talking? So, the power of silent protest is your topic. I thought, the best thing to do would be sit on the stage and play my favorite song, the song Sounds of Silence from Simon and Garfunkel. I know most of you are from a generation which will go to Google and find out what am I talking about, but that was like an anthem for us while I was growing up. And in today's age, when the TV debates are becoming like the medium to voice your protest, something like silence is an alien concept because on TV debates it feels as if the loudest guy wins always. And unfortunately, on some channels, the anchor is the loudest. So, making people understand the power of the sound, the effect of silent protest is a difficult task. And if you look at Satyagraha, the way of protesting that was unique to its time, which was discovered, it emerged from the ancient system of tapasya, and most of it was silence. Because when the old sages did tapasya, they didn't speak, they didn't do anything, they were completely engrossed in meditation, and all, at least we are told, that all the miracles that happened in history, prehistoric times, were the results of tapasya. And tapasya is the first embodiment of the power of silence, which from where Satyagraha took its inspiration. But while we credit Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi as somebody who invented Satyagraha and used it as a tool, his realization of the power of Satyagraha and silent protest was born out of his experience with his wife Kasturba. And it's written in his autobiography that Kasturba was the one who taught him the power of passive resistance. As Satyagraha was initially known in South Africa, they started calling it passive resistance and they felt that, oh my God, what is this? How do we react to it? And the incident that triggered this in Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi's life was Ba and Bapu, Kasturba and Mohandas Gandhi were wedded to each other when they were 13 years old. Neither of them knew what it meant to be husband and wife. Kastur knew that life lessons will teach her what it means to be a wife, and she was prepared to learn that way. But young Mohandas did not have the patience to wait. And being a voracious reader, he decided that he will learn how to be a good husband by reading in a book. So he went and bought a book which gave lessons in what an ideal husband must be like. And every day he would read one lesson and then try it out in the relationship with his wife Kastur. The first lesson that the book said that a husband needs to behave, the manner in which the husband needs to behave, is established his authority over the wife. The wife has to be obedient. The wife has to listen to him. And the wife has to do only what he permits her to do. So he was confused. He said, how do I do that? And the explanation was, you lay down the rules. You tell her that she can do this thing. And the best thing to do is tell her she can't do anything without your permission. Mohan used to see that Kastur used to every evening dress up and leave the house and go out and spend about an hour, hour and a half outside, and then come back. And he always wondered what she was doing, but he wasn't prepared to ask her. So one fine day he told her, he said, look, my authority as your husband means that henceforth you have to take permission from me to do anything. And I see that you go out of the house every evening and you don't ask me for permission. So henceforth you will not go out of the house without my permission. Kastur did not respond, Kastur did not react. And to his astonishment, the next evening, Kastur did the same thing. She dressed up, she went out without bothering to ask for his permission. So he went back to the book that night and he read and he said, what happens if the wife doesn't obey the husband's command? So the book said, you got to punish her. So that evening, Mohan told his wife, he said, tomorrow, if you go out without seeking my permission, you're going to be punished. And be very aware of the fact that I'm going to punish you severely. Kastur didn't protest, didn't say anything. The next evening, she went out again. So then he went back to the book and he said, now what do I do? This woman is not listening to me at all. So the book said, in case the wife is not obedient, she is not worth having as a wife. So throw her out. So that night he told Kastur, tomorrow you step out, don't come back home, you go to your father's house, I don't want you in my house. That is when Kastur said, okay, fine, you are my lord. Since you say, tell me that I can't go out, tomorrow when your mother asks me to accompany her to the temple, I'm going to say, old lady, I can't come with you. My husband doesn't allow me to go. And Mohan said, my God, you'll defy my mother. So she said, you decide. Either I obey you or I obey your mother. I can't obey both of you. He says, dare not, you dare not disobey my mother, kind of thing. At that time, Mohan didn't realize what Kastur had taught him. But when he was in South Africa, when he was suffering injustices and wondering how he should respond to those injustices, he remembered this incident and he remembered the profound effect that that incident had on his life. And in his autobiography, he writes that the first lesson on the power of passive resistance and the silent protest was taught to me by Kastur, my wife. And he narrates this incident. It was silence and the silent protest that eventually baffled the British and forced them to accept the fact that they were not welcome in India anymore. It takes time. It takes a long time. The Satyagraha movement in India had to be fought for 3 decades before it showed results. But with our limited abilities to respond to the might of the empire, it was the most confusing confrontation for the British, who admitted that, if we had to fight a battle, we were prepared to fight a battle. But when the battlefield was changed and the method of battle, of war, was changed, we didn't have a reply to it. We didn't know how to respond to it. In comparison, if you look at the Irish and British conflict, they were of the same race. They were practically brothers and sisters. And yet, they both fought the most bitter battle for over 5 decades before they realized that they had no way to move ahead other than speaking with one another, because fighting one another had become an endless siege battle. That is the difference between the power of silent protest and the weakness of armed conflict. Because in an armed conflict, there is a victor and a vanquished. But in the silent protest, in Satyagraha, there is no victor, there is no vanquished. Both the parties feel equally responsible for the result that they achieved, and that is where the British, when they left India, could convince themselves that we are leaving from our own free will. And the Indians were happy that we have sent the British away from our shores. Actually, when the last British soldiers left the shores of India in Mumbai, they had a ceremonious parade. The Somerset Light Infantry was the last battle group to leave India, and they marched through the fort area of Mumbai and left the Indian shores, boarded their ships from the gateway of India, which was built to welcome Prince Edward when he came to India. And citizens of Mumbai were giving them roses, hugging them, and crying and sending them the most warm, friendly send off. That is the power of silence. That is what we fail to understand these days. If you even look at social media, you will realize that hate on social media is so loud. All the hate-filled messages will be typed in all caps. Nothing can be louder than all caps on social media. Every time I received, sometimes people forget that their caps lock is on, and I received a message, I open it, and I see all caps. Even before reading it, I am apprehensive. I said, I'm going to get abused over here. That is what we end up doing. That is our faith in the loudness of character. On a personal level, I'll narrate an incident that I faced. As a child, I was always big built and taller than my peers of my age group. And so my parents and my grandmother, they were always anxious that, I might hurt children of my age because I was physically more powerful than them. And they kept telling me, my grandmother taught me a lesson. She said, there'll be situations when you'll feel like lashing out. But she said, do one thing. Just before you punch somebody, so just before you slap somebody, when anger is boiling up in you, just stop for 2 minutes and take 4 deep breaths before responding. And I noticed that by the time I took those 4 deep breaths, my urge to hit back would have subsided. Maybe the yoga guru would have said, ye pranayam ka chamatkar hai. Maybe it was that. But those 4 deep breaths allowed me the time to question my reaction of hitting back, punching back, and make me understand that if I punched, it would justify somebody punching me back. And it would just prolong the conflict and things. But when I paused to take the deep breaths, it would also calm down the adversary. And finally, we would both understand that, it was no use fighting over something. We have our disagreements, we have our disputes, but there are other ways of resolving them. These are the practical manners. They don't look attractive. They don't look lovely like on the screen you see the guy standing up to 15 people and punching them out of the frame and still not, even a lock of his hair moving out of place. It looks fantastic. But in real life, even if you succeed in punching 5 bad guys, eventually it'll lead to your getting into a police station and your cases filed against you, even if you did it in self-defense. But if you stand up for what is your right, and if you defy what you believe is wrong, the response will be much, much different. When Bhagat Singh threw a bomb in the parliament, he didn't want to kill the people because most of the people in that parliament were Indians. All he wanted was that for them to listen to the grievances of the people of India. And his greatest achievement was when he refused to defend himself and pleaded guilty on the first day of his trial, which was what Gandhi did when he was produced in court and the charges read out against him. And he was asked, who's going to defend you? The judge asked him, where's your defense lawyer? And Bapu said, I don't need a defense lawyer. I'm not going to defend myself either. I plead guilty to all the charges. And to save time and money, I request you to sentence me to the harshest punishment possible. And if you look at the historic facts of the Bhagat Singh trial, you will notice that even Sardar Bhagat Singh refused to defend himself, and he said, I stand charged as guilty. And I expect the most severe of punishments for my deeds. And he refused to file any mercy petition. He refused to file any suspensions of his sentence and embraced the gallows with a laughing smile on his face. A young life. It was the most courageous thing to do, to march up to the gallows and accept the noose around his neck. And that is what makes him great, not the act of throwing the bomb in Parliament. In modern times, that is the best example of the power of silence as a protest. Try it. Even in personal life. 100 abuses will not have an effect as a few minutes of silence in the face of the gravest provocations. Thank you very much.